Do you folks want out of the rent trap, or do you want another year of donating your paycheck to a landlord who won't fix the dryer? Here's the play across the US. There are pockets where you can still buy for used car money, and I'm not talking shacks. I'm talking livable, fixable, equity-building homes in towns the algorithm forgot. While big city listings scream past $400K plus and 30-year rates hover well above 6%, these places close for five figures, with monthly payments that look like a cell phone bill. In a country where the average rent hovers around $2,000 and 1 in 3 buyers is priced out by debt-to-income limits, you need an angle. This is it. I've dug up towns where the cost of living runs 15–30% lower than the national average, property taxes won't body slam your budget, and starter homes still exist without a trust fund. Strap in, your escape plan starts now. Number 15. Toledo, Ohio. Toledo is one of those places where you can still buy a house for about $80,000 to $115,000, which in 2025 is basically pocket change compared to what people are paying for parking spots in San Francisco. They call it the Glass City because of its industrial history, but these days it's more like a mirror reflecting America's economic contradictions. You've got neighborhoods with stunning old brick homes that could be in a movie set, next to entire blocks that look like the film already wrapped and left everything behind. The median home price sits around $115K, while the national average is soaring past $420K. That's a 72% discount just for choosing Toledo over Phoenix. Rent runs about $750, $850 a month, which is less than most people spend on groceries in New York City. The catch? Toledo crime rates are about twice the national average in certain pockets, so you're saving money but maybe investing in better locks. The job market is mixed: education, healthcare, blue-collar industries, and a surprisingly robust art and food scene. Yes, Toledo has a zoo ranked among the top in the US, and a minor league hockey team that locals are unreasonably proud of. But the city has wild weather, potholes big enough to qualify as state parks, and a habit of snowing when the forecast says sunny. Imagine walking out of your fully paid-off $90,000 home on a Tuesday morning, smelling fresh Polish pastries from the bakery, and then hearing your neighbor start his snowblower even though it's October. That's Toledo, equal parts bargain and bizarre. Number 14. Scranton, Pennsylvania. Scranton. The name itself has a weird weight. Half the country thinks of The Office, the other half thinks of Joe Biden, and the people actually living there just want the potholes fixed. Here's the thing: Scranton has median home prices just under $110,000. That's a shockingly low number when you realize housing in Philly, only 2 hours south, averages almost 4 times that. Rent? Around $800 for a 2-bedroom, which is practically free compared to Boston or DC. Scranton's history is steeped in coal mining, and you can still feel that energy. Like the town never fully left the 1950s, but now there's Wi-Fi and vape shops next to century-old churches. Crime sits right around the national average, so it's not chaos, but petty theft isn't exactly rare either. What nobody tells you: Scranton's economy crashed hard in the 1980s when industry dried up, and it's been crawling back ever since. The job market today leans on healthcare, logistics, education, and small business startups, but wages hover lower than the national median. Still, people here are resilient. Local diners are packed, community events are surprisingly lively, and every neighbor will know your name, your business, and probably how much you paid for your house. Weather is classic Northeast: 4 seasons, sometimes in 1 week, with winters that will chew up your car battery and spit it out by February. Yet the trade-off is massive affordability. Imagine sipping coffee in a $95,000 century-old home with stained glass windows, while your cousin in New Jersey is shelling out $3,000 for a shoebox. Scranton is gritty, unpolished, but undeniably real. Number 13. Rochester, New York. Rochester is the kind of city where you can own a 4-bedroom house for under $110,000 and then immediately spend your savings on snow shovels and therapy lamps. This is upstate New York, the former kingdom of Kodak, Xerox, and Bausch and Lomb. A city that once defined American innovation before tech giants left and the economy took a gut punch. The median home price today is about $107,000, with rent hovering at $900 for a 2-bedroom, nearly half the U.S. average. On paper it looks like paradise, but Rochester plays a dangerous game with expectations. Crime here is complicated. Violent crime is nearly double the national average in some neighborhoods, while the suburbs are so safe you could leave your car unlocked for a week. But the weather, brutal. The city gets over 100 inches of snow per year, one of the highest in the country, plus months of overcast skies that practically guarantee seasonal depression. Yet, here's the twist. Rochester is becoming a magnet for creatives and remote workers. There's a growing food and brewery scene, nationally recognized universities, and neighborhoods where Victorian homes are being revived by millennials who figured out they don't have to be broke in Brooklyn. Cost of living is 25% lower than the national average, so your dollar stretches, even if the sunlight doesn't. Imagine living in a stunning 19th century home with hardwood floors for less than the price of an efficiency apartment in Manhattan. Then picture your pipes freezing in April. Rochester is affordable, artistic, and underrated, but it comes wrapped in snow. Lots of it. Number 12. St. Louis, Missouri. St. Louis is the definition of a real estate gamble. On one hand, you can score a house for $60,000, $110,000, which is cheaper than a used Tesla. On the other hand, you might also inherit a bullet hole in the siding. This is America's ultimate contrast city. Gorgeous historic brick homes built in the 1800s stand right next to neighborhoods that look post-apocalyptic. The median home price sits at about $110,000, with rent averaging $925 for a two-bedroom, well below national averages. And yet, crime is a whole different story. In certain zip codes, the violent crime rate is 4 times the national average, making St. Louis one of the most dangerous cities in the country statistically. Still, not all of it is chaos. Downtown and Midtown have been redeveloped, bringing in tech startups, healthcare growth, and a low-key but excellent food scene. The cost of living is 18% below the U.S. average, and if you buy in the right neighborhood, you're living like royalty on a middle-class salary. Locals joke that in St. Louis, the house might cost $70,000, but your home security system should cost $300. The roads are another headache. Potholes here are legendary. You don't drive around them, you strategize like you're in a video game. But the upsides are real: low housing costs, thriving local culture, and enough history to fill a museum. Imagine sitting on your $85,000 front porch, listening to a Cardinals game on a neighbor's radio, while eating barbecue that rivals Kansas City, all while your mortgage payment is less than someone else's car note. St. Louis is equal parts affordable dream and cautionary tale. Number 11. Detroit, Michigan. Detroit is the only city in America where you can literally buy a house for $1. Yes, one single dollar. The Motor City, once the crown jewel of U.S. manufacturing, became ground zero for economic collapse in the late 2000s. But here's the twist: it's not dead, it's mutating. The median home price sits around $66,000 today, with rent about $950 for a two-bedroom. That's nearly 30% below the national average, making Detroit one of the cheapest major metros in the U.S., but cheap comes with complications. Detroit still has one of the highest violent crime rates in the country, and many neighborhoods are filled with abandoned homes, overgrown lots, and infrastructure that hasn't been repaired since Motown was topping the charts. Yet, downtown is a whole different world. Tech startups, trendy lofts, craft coffee shops, and major investments in real estate are reshaping the core. It's like two cities living side by side. Locals describe it perfectly. Detroit's like dating someone in therapy, not okay but trying. The city is gritty, tough, and oddly inspiring. Roads are a disaster. Potholes here are like sinkholes. You're not driving, you're dodging survival traps. But if you're scrappy, Detroit offers opportunities you won't find anywhere else. Imagine paying $5,000 for a two-story brick home, fixing it up, and suddenly owning property that could quadruple in value if the city's comeback sticks. That's the gamble. Detroit is affordable beyond belief, but it demands resilience. If you're ready for chaos with a side of culture, this is the cheapest ticket into home ownership in America. Number 10. Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Pittsburgh is the rare U.S. city where you can get affordability and culture without feeling like you've moved into a ghost town. The median home price is about $175,000, nearly $250K below the national average, while rent for a two-bedroom is around $1,150, still significantly cheaper than most major metros. Pittsburgh transformed from a steel industry giant into a surprisingly modern hub for tech, healthcare, and robotics. Google, Uber, and Duolingo all have offices here, creating jobs that actually pay well. Cost of living is about 10% below the national average, which is shocking when you consider the city's amenities: 3 major sports teams, world-class universities, and more bridges than Venice. But the catch: Pittsburgh is a geographic nightmare. The city is built on hills, rivers, and tunnels that make GPS practically useless. Locals call it Yinzer logic. If you've never backed down a 45-degree icy driveway at 6 a.m., you don't understand. Crime is moderate and highly neighborhood-dependent. Some blocks feel suburban, others feel sketchy. Weather is unpredictable. Rain, fog, and snow can all happen on the same day, leaving your umbrella in a constant state of defeat. Yet, Pittsburgh offers something rare: balance. You get affordability without completely giving up modern conveniences. Imagine grabbing a $3 craft beer in a historic dive bar, crossing one of the 446 bridges, and walking home to your 3-bedroom house that cost less than tuition at Yale. That's Pittsburgh. Affordable, quirky, and more livable than anyone outside Pennsylvania gives it credit for. Number 9. Memphis, Tennessee. Memphis is one of those cities where the housing prices look like a typo on Zillow. The median home price hovers around $118,000, less than a new Tesla, and way cheaper than the $400K national average. Rent, around $950 for a 2-bedroom, which is a steal considering this is a major metro with music, food, and history bursting from every corner. But here's the part nobody tells you: Memphis is as gritty as it is soulful. This is the birthplace of blues, soul, and rock and roll, home to Beale Street, Graceland, and barbecue, so good it's practically a religion. The job market is fueled by logistics. FedEx HQ is here, healthcare, and shipping, so opportunities exist, but wages aren't exactly Silicon Valley numbers. The catch: crime. Memphis has one of the highest crime rates in the nation, with violent crime at nearly 3 times the US average. It's not unlivable, but you definitely want to know your neighborhood before buying. Yet, despite the statistics, Memphis has resilience baked into its DNA. Communities here stick together, block by block. The affordability makes it possible to actually build wealth, own a home, and still have money left over for ribs. But daily life comes with quirks. Drivers treat red lights like maybe signs. Summers are brutally humid, like breathing soup while swatting mosquitoes the size of nickels. And don't even get me started on the roads. Imagine sitting on your $110K porch, the smell of ribs drifting through the air, while Elvis songs float from a neighbor's garage band. Memphis isn't perfect, it's cheap, chaotic, and charming all at once. Number 8. McAllen, Texas. McAllen is the city where your mortgage payment costs less than most people's brunch bill in Los Angeles. The median home price is about $98,000, with rent for a 2-bedroom averaging $850. That's not a typo. This is 2025, and you can still live here for less than $1,000 a month. McAllen sits right on the US-Mexico border, deep in the Rio Grande Valley, and it's a blend of Tex-Mex culture, palm trees, and year-round heat. Cost of living, 22% below the US average. Crime, surprisingly low for a border town, safer than most mid-sized American cities. Healthcare is a major industry here, along with retail and education, which explains why McAllen has one of the highest doctor-to-patient ratios in Texas. But cheap doesn't mean easy. Summers are punishing, with over 220 days of sunshine and triple-digit heat waves that will test your AC unit like it owes you money. The humidity is relentless, and mosquitoes thrive here like it's their ancestral homeland. Still, McAllen is peaceful. Neighbors are friendly, streets are calm, and the vibe is slow, almost too slow. Nightlife basically dies after 10 p.m., unless you count HEB parking lots as entertainment hubs. But imagine it: you're rocking on a front porch, tamale truck honking down the block, palm trees swaying in the heat, and your house is already paid off in cash. That's the trade-off. Cheap housing and community pride in exchange for buckets of sweat and the occasional mosquito ambush. McAllen isn't just affordable, it's proof that small-town Texas charm still exists. Just bring extra deodorant. Number 7. Waycross, Georgia. Waycross is the kind of town where a 3-bedroom house goes for $85,000, and the rent for a 2-bedroom hovers around $700. That's not just cheap, it's suspiciously cheap. Located at the edge of the Okefenokee Swamp, Waycross feels like a town plucked out of a Southern Gothic novel. The cost of living here is 25% below the national average, making it one of the most affordable small towns in America. Jobs. The biggest employer is the railroad, followed closely by healthcare and schools. Crime is moderate, nothing shocking, just the usual petty theft mixed with the occasional gator in your yard problem. And that's not a joke. Wildlife is a daily part of life here. Mosquitoes, raccoons, snakes, and yes, actual alligators. The town is sleepy. Downtown is basically Dollar General's, a barbecue joint or two, and the faint vibe of The Walking Dead. Still, locals swear by the peace and quiet. Every neighbor knows you, everyone says hun before noon, and community cookouts are a regular thing. Weather, hot, humid, sticky. July in Waycross feels like you're shrink-wrapped in sweat. Your air conditioner won't just run, it will scream. And the bugs? They're on another level. Georgia mosquitoes hover like drones, staring you down before they strike. Yet there's something charming about it. Imagine sipping sweet tea on your $80K porch swing, listening to cicadas, while the swamp hums in the distance. Waycross isn't fast-paced, it's slow, sticky, and strangely serene. If you can handle the humidity and occasional wildlife roommate, this town is a dirt-cheap southern gem. Number 6. Hermitage. Hermitage, Pennsylvania. Hermitage sounds like a ski resort, but it's actually a sleepy town in western Pennsylvania, where homes cost about as much as a used Subaru. The median home price sits around $90,000, with rent for a 2-bedroom averaging $750, $800. Cost of living is 20% lower than the national average, and crime is so low that a raccoon on the loose makes the local paper. The job market leans on manufacturing, healthcare and education, which means steady but modest employment. What sets Hermitage apart is its pace. The town feels like it's permanently set to quiet mode. You won't find trendy coffee shops or nightlife here. The mall is technically still open, but it feels haunted. Internet speeds can lag, and businesses shut down early. Social life is mostly church events, high school sports, and your neighbor stopping by just to chat in the driveway. Winters. Brutal. Hermitage is squarely in the snow belt, which means endless shoveling and gray skies for months. But the trade-off is unbeatable affordability. Your mortgage might be less than $400 a month, which is less than a single car payment in New York. And the community, friendly to a fault. Neighbors shovel each other's driveways without being asked, sometimes before you even wake up. Imagine waking up on a snowy morning, sipping cocoa, looking out at your peaceful untouched backyard, all for under $100K. Hermitage isn't flashy, but it's safe, affordable, and quietly cozy. If you want peace, snow, and a mortgage smaller than your grocery bill, this is your spot. Number 5. Platte City, Missouri. Platte City feels like a simulation glitch. Homes here cost $130K to $160K. Rent is about $850, $950, and the cost of living is 14% below the U.S. average. On paper, it's affordable suburban bliss. Tucked just north of Kansas City, Platte City is technically a commuter town, meaning you get small-town calm with big city access, if you don't mind a 25-minute drive in traffic that can ruin your soul. The crime rate, lowish, with most reports being porch piracy, and the occasional bored teenager with too many fireworks. Jobs? You'll need to head to Kansas City for most professional gigs, though there are plenty of trades, retail, and school district positions nearby. Life in Platte City is family-oriented. Schools, sports leagues and backyards dominate the vibe. But let's be honest, it's boring. Going out here means Sonic or Dollar General, and nightlife wraps up before 9 p.m. There are more antique shops than restaurants, which tells you everything you need to know. The roads are a disaster. Whoever paved them must have been trained on a roller coaster simulator. You'll hit a bump, go airborne, and land in a school zone at 15 miles per hour, with a lifted pickup tailgating you. Still, Platte City is clean, safe, and cheap. Imagine owning a 3-bedroom home with a yard for under $150K, while your friends in Chicago can't even rent a studio for that price in a year. Platte City isn't exciting, but it's stable, affordable, and weirdly wholesome. If Dairy Queen as a cultural hub doesn't scare you, this town is a financial win. Number 4. Atchison Village, California. Atchison Village is like California's best-kept real estate loophole, a pocket universe where you can still buy a home for under $300,000 in the Bay Area. Yes, the Bay. This little co-op, tucked inside Richmond, looks like a glitch in Zillow's matrix. Built during World War II to house shipyard workers, the homes here are modest, 1,940 S-era row houses, but the median unit price hovers around $250K, when the Bay Area average is closer to $1.2 million. The cost of living is still high, because California is allergic to cheap groceries, but housing here is absurdly affordable compared to its neighbors. The catch? You're not actually buying a house. You're buying into a housing cooperative, which means you technically co-own the land with everyone else, and decisions are made by community vote. HOA fees run about $400 a month, covering insurance, water, and trash. The vibe is old school, neighbors watching out for each other, block meetings, and bylaws that sometimes feel like they were written on a typewriter in 1943. Surrounding Richmond has a reputation for crime, with violent crime rates 117% above the national average, but inside the co-op, it's surprisingly safe and tight-knit. Commuting to San Francisco, possible, if you survive the I-80 crawl. Here's the emotional math. You get Bay Area living without million-dollar mortgages, but you give up privacy and independence. Imagine escaping rent hell in Oakland, moving into a cozy $250K townhouse, and then immediately getting side-eyed by the co-op board, because your blinds aren't approved. Atchison is part bargain, part-time machine, and all California weirdness. Number 3. Yankton, South Dakota. Yankton is the kind of town where you can buy a house for $220,000 and feel like you accidentally skipped inflation. This small city of about 15,000 residents hugs the Missouri River, offering waterfront charm without the luxury tax. The cost of living is 16% below the U.S. average, and crime rates are nearly half the national median, making it one of the safest towns on this list. Jobs are stable, though not flashy. Healthcare, manufacturing, and local government keep the economy steady. But here's the thing. Everyone under 30 tends to bolt for Sioux Falls the second they realize Yankton doesn't have a Trader Joe's. That leaves a community heavy on retirees, families, and folks who thrive in slow living. Weather is a mix of scorching summers and brutal winters, with the kind of prairie winds that slap you just for walking outside. Entertainment. Think gas station pizza, karaoke nights at the One Bar, and fishing on the river. Social life here is basically knowing everyone's cousin by name, but affordability is king. Imagine a 3-bedroom home with a yard big enough for a garden, a grill, and 3 stray deer wandering through, all for less than half the national average. One fun fact: Yankton was once the capital of Dakota Territory, and it still feels like it's stuck between history and a Facebook group debate about deer season. If you want peace, safety, and housing prices that look like 2008 never ended, Yankton delivers. Just don't expect nightlife unless you count bonfires and boat ramps. Number 2. Price. Utah. Price is where you can buy a house for $200,000 and still have cash left over for a snowmobile and a year's worth of canned beans. This little town of 8,200 people, tucked between desert bluffs and coal seams, feels like stepping into a time capsule. The cost of living is 18% below the national average, unemployment sits at just 2.9%, and crime is comfortably below U.S. averages. Housing is almost comically cheap compared to the rest of Utah, where Salt Lake City's median home price has rocketed past $530,000. The economy is built on coal, railroads, and local healthcare, so if your dream job doesn't involve fossils or forklifts, remote work is your best bet. Here's what no one tells you. Living in Price means peace, sometimes too much peace. Internet can lag. Nightlife is basically a diner and a bowling alley, and if you're under 40, boredom will sneak up on you fast. Locals joke that if you're not into rodeos or recycling debates, you'll end up alphabetizing your pantry for entertainment. Weather swings from blazing desert heat to snow that locks your truck in place. Dining options: a couple of Subways, a Taco Bell, and one diner, where everyone knows your coffee order before you sit down. Yet the trade-off is unbeatable. low mortgages, safe neighborhoods, and the kind of quiet where you hear church bells and train whistles more than sirens. Imagine sipping coffee on a porch at sunset, mountains glowing red in the distance, while your mortgage costs less than a monthly parking space in LA. That's price. Number 1. Detroit, Michigan. Detroit is the American housing paradox. Median home price, $66,000. But you can literally find abandoned homes selling for as little as $1. It's both a bargain hunter's paradise and a survivalist's test. Once the crown jewel of American industry, the Motor City crashed spectacularly in the late 20th century. But it's not dead. It's reinventing itself, one block at a time. Downtown and Midtown are buzzing with tech startups, boutique coffee shops, and art galleries, while just a few miles away, you'll find ghost neighborhoods overrun by weeds. The cost of living is 30% below the US average, and rent averages $950 for a 2-bedroom, which is laughably low for a major city. Jobs are growing in tech, healthcare, and mobility industries, but poverty remains high, and crime rates are among the worst in the nation. Locals put it best: Detroit's like a Netflix reboot, messy, gritty, but better each season. Roads are a disaster zone, with potholes that could swallow a Prius whole. Winters are brutal, summers humid, but the housing market is still one of the cheapest in America. Here's the gamble: buy now, and you could either sit on worthless bricks, or ride the wave of Detroit's comeback to massive equity. Imagine buying a 2-story home for $5K, fixing it up, and sipping coffee in your backyard, while murals and Motown music fill the air. Detroit isn't for the faint of heart. It's tough, chaotic, and resilient. But it's also the only major U.S. city where homeownership is still within reach for everyday people. So here's the bottom line: while the rest of America is drowning in $400,000 mortgages and $2,000 rents, these towns are quietly offering homes for a fraction of the cost. You can keep bleeding cash in the city, or you can own dirt, walls, and a front porch for less than the price of a used car. It's your move. Will you stay stuck, or will you grab the keys where the deals still feel illegal?